Good morning, growers, and welcome to the Growing Garden channel. I am Pietro Isolan, and today our focus will be on providing quick nutrition to the seedlings in our vegetable gardens. Let's address a fundamental principle right away. The first rule of sustainable ecological agriculture is to enhance soil fertility. This is of utmost importance, and in our synergistic garden, we achieve this through the use of mulches and other techniques. In a traditional garden, we typically perform background fertilization once or twice a year using manure, compost, vermicompost, or other similar products. What I'm about to discuss today does not replace those practices. The key here is to increase the organic matter in our soil, as it not only nourishes the seedlings but also helps sequester carbon, contributing to environmental protection. However, these techniques have a downside. They do not provide quick nutrition, as organic matter takes a considerable amount of time to decompose. Nevertheless, there may be times when we need to give the seedlings an instant nutrient boost without resorting to chemical fertilizers. That's where a particular technique comes into play, which I will demonstrate today. And what is this technique, you may ask? It involves dissolving dry manure or poultry manure in water to extract the nutrients and provide them to the plants through irrigation. For this technique, we will need two materials. The first is dried and pelleted manure available at consortiums, garden stores, and various other outlets. The second is poultry manure, specifically chicken poop from my chicken coop. It has been dried for several months, ensuring it is thoroughly dehydrated. Now, let's understand when we should apply this technique that I will demonstrate shortly. Firstly, we should use it when the seedlings have stopped growing and the season demands rapid growth. Secondly, it is particularly beneficial at the onset of fruit ripening, as it provides a substantial boost to the plants. Lastly, it is useful towards the end of the season when the plant may lack sufficient energy to ripen the remaining fruits, such as tomatoes or zucchini. By using this technique, we enable the plant to redirect its resources towards ripening the fruits, allowing it to end the season on a high note. Now let us explore the differences between manure and poultry manure. Both contain nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We will discuss the characteristics of these elements shortly, but they are essential for promoting microbial life in the soil, regardless of whether we apply them in their solid form or as a dissolved solution. Poultry manure generally contains more nitrogen, but caution must be exercised, as it also contains compounds that can be potentially harmful to the plants, like ammonia and urea. Therefore, fresh poultry manure should never be used directly, as it can burn the roots with these substances. Instead, it should be either composted, combining it with straw, for example, or soaked in water for at least a month to neutralize these compounds. Alternatively, as we will demonstrate today, it can be dissolved in water in small quantities. However, it is crucial to ensure that the poultry manure is well dried before using it in this manner. Now let's discuss the ratios at which we should dissolve the poultry manure. We need to aim for a ratio of 1 to 15, where 0.6 to 0.7 liters of poultry manure is mixed with 10 liters of water, or 1 liter of poultry manure is mixed with 15 liters of water. To measure the poultry manure, we can use a 1-liter container, such as a jar or a appropriately sized plastic bottle. Since we are targeting 0.6 to 0.7 liters of poultry manure per 10 liters of water, we should not fill the container to the brim. Instead, we should fill it 2/3 of the way and then pour it into the 10 liters of water. Additionally, we can consider adding other nutrients to the mixture, such as seaweed extract or bone meal, to further enhance the nutrition for the seedlings. In conclusion, while enhancing soil fertility through traditional organic matter practices is crucial, there may be instances where providing an instant nutrient boost to seedlings is necessary. By dissolving dry manure or poultry manure in water, we can extract the nutrients and supply them to the plants through irrigation. This technique is particularly beneficial when seedlings have stopped growing and require rapid growth, at the onset of fruit ripening, and towards the end of the season when plants need energy to ripen remaining fruits. It is important to exercise caution with poultry manure, properly drying or composting it to neutralize harmful compounds. When dissolving poultry manure, the suggested ratios are 0.6 to 0.7 liters of manure to 10 liters of water, or 1 liter of manure to 15 liters of water. This technique, when used properly, can provide a quick nutritional boost to seedlings in a sustainable and eco-friendly manner. After that, we will have to mix it thoroughly. Here I am, currently preparing the fertilizer for the seedlings that are placed in the pots and boxes. In the near future, we will proceed to the vegetable garden in order to create a scaled-up version of the fertilizer for the plants in the garden. However, before we proceed with the dissolution of the pelleted manure, it's important to take a moment to explain the purposes of the three main nutrients. Let's begin with nitrogen, which is abundantly found in these products. Nitrogen acts as the bread for plants, as it facilitates the growth of both the plant and the wood components. Therefore, it serves as a stimulating factor for the development of vegetation. If there is an insufficient amount of nitrogen, the plant's growth will be hindered. Conversely, providing an excessive amount of nitrogen, a mistake commonly made, can result in rapid plant growth where the tissues become waterlogged, causing the plant to become weaker and prioritize leaf growth over fruit production. Nitrogen is represented by the symbol N. Moving on, let's discuss phosphorus. Phosphorus plays a crucial role in the fruiting process, as it stimulates the formation and growth of fruits. Furthermore, phosphorus not only influences the rate of growth, but also impacts the quality of the fruits. Insufficient phosphorus leads to a lack of fruit production, and the fruits that are produced tend to have poor quality. Lastly, let's explore potassium, symbolized by K. Potassium aids in facilitating the exchange of nutrients within the plant. If there is a deficiency of potassium, it can cause interruptions in the transportation of nutrients from the roots to the leaves, ultimately resulting in foliage decay. Fertilizers typically indicate the composition of the fertilizer through the 3-digit NPK ratio. For instance, the fertilizer we currently possess has a ratio of 2.8 for nitrogen, 2.5 for phosphorus, and 3 for potassium, expressed as a percentage. This signifies a relatively balanced fertilizer composition encompassing the three elements. Additionally, various fertilizers with higher or lower levels of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium can be found in the market. After this informative explanation on how fertilizers are made, let's dissolve 1 liter of dried animal manure in 10 liters of water solution. Water. We should mix it properly so that it dissolves as much as possible, and then mix it every day for at least 3 days. In 3-4 days it will already be ready. As I told you before, these 2 buckets, I made them for the plants that I have here near the house, in the boxes, in the containers, and so on. But the ones in the vegetable garden, we are going to make them now. So here we have in the vegetable garden, we have here 2 containers of 115 liters. And so we are going to make 100 liters of manure from dried litter and 100 liters from poultry manure. So at this point, we have filled the bins with 100 liters each. Let's do doses 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, and let's make 7. Since there was a little bit of soil, a little bit of straw, let's stay a little bit more abundant. Now instead we do the readout. In this case it's 1 to 10, so we put 10 liters for 100 liters of 5. 6. 10. It wasn't just luck, I had calculated it before, and now it mixes. I feel like the witch with the cauldron. Alright, there is a slight smell present due to the pelletized red meat, but it actually has a pleasant aroma. However, this smell is for the benefit of our plants, so we can tolerate it. Now, we need to let it sit for 3 days to break down. During this time, we must stir it daily to ensure that the substances remain suspended. Let's now proceed and extract the necessary substances. After 3 days, let's reconvene and discuss how to administer it to the seedlings. Make sure to stay tuned to the video, as you can see it right away. So, here we are, and as time goes by, several days have already passed. Actually, even 4 days. I had to cover the bins since the odor from the poultry manure in particular was quite strong. I would describe it as an overpowering stench. However, the smell from the pelletized material was slightly less intense. Nevertheless, let's give it one final stir and I'll demonstrate how to distribute it. In any case, the smell is noticeable during the first 2 or 3 days, but it gradually lessens afterwards. A first caveat, just because of the stench, get yourself some clothes that you can wash right after, because this stuff is really pestilential. Some gloves may be rubberized so that it doesn't go directly on your hands. And then let's get started, The first thing I suggest you do, let's start with the poultry manure, is to get a small bucket that is convenient for working with the container. And sift the product that we are going to give in the garden. We can set aside this sludge and let it mature further before using it in the garden at a later time. The total character count is 134. In my situation, I accomplished it using a plain old mosquito net and a piece of wire. Another tip I give you is to make yourself a small ladle of the dose, more or less, that goes suitable for each plant, which is roughly half a liter. Let's always remember that the plant does not have its roots only here, but when it has already grown in this way, the roots are in a much wider radius, so the half liter that we will give, we take it from the bucket, and we are going to distribute it in a balanced in a diameter of, let's say, about 20 centimeters at least. In case, as for these eggplants, we have fruits, it will be good not to go to wet the fruits with this material, because anyway, let's remember that it is excrement broth, so it will be enough to stay a little far away from the fruit. Someone will tell me that I have not yet put stakes in these eggplants. You are right. In these upcoming days, I will also include them in the scenario of these zucchini plants. I will refrain from watering the fruits, and it would be best to avoid wetting the leaves as well. Therefore, let's keep the plants elevated because we must remember that it is a substance that has the potential to cause burns. Especially in this heat, it would be better not to wet the leaves. As for now, I am going to refill and then provide you with the final tips. Let's go now and see how it went with the buckets that I prepared for the pots that I have here in the yard. Here we have the pelleted manure, and here we have the manure. As you can see, they dropped a little bit because some of the water evaporated even though they were in the shade, so maybe we add back some water. This time we filter the pelleted manure. And now we go and give it to the pots. I have a nice example here to give you two plants like these. I don't give them anything at all because they are huge nitrogen. They certainly didn't lack. The fruits are currently producing exceptionally well. Therefore, there is no need to exert any further effort in this situation. Instead, in the case of this caisson, it may make sense to give it to these tomatoes. As previously mentioned, we should exercise caution in handling the product as it poses a potential danger to our health. It is also important to avoid getting the product on the basil leaves as this can prove harmful. Some of you may suggest using a watering can instead, which would be a simpler option. While it's true that a watering can enables us to estimate the amount of water we're providing, it also comes with the risk of giving either too much or too little. This can make it challenging to have an accurate measurement of the product being dispensed. That's why I believe using a ladle, as I demonstrated earlier, is a superior choice. By using a ladle, we have the flexibility to adjust the amount of product once it has been filtered. If you happen to have tanks connected to a drip system, you could consider transferring the product there. However, I advise against it unless you have containers specifically devoted to that purpose. It is important to note that this broth contains microorganisms and bacteria that we do not want to proliferate in the water and be ever present. Ideally, using a ladle strikes the best balance when it comes to providing this type of fertilizer to the plants. That concludes this video. If you have any lingering questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the comment section below. Wishing you all happy farming.